Hello there, Gret.
I'm Gret Menzies-Gonzalez. I'm the artistic director of virtual arts. We're going to do a quick little mini good talk. I'm here with my friend Larry Pellegrini.
Hey, Gret.
How are you?
I'm doing well today. I'm in Illinois. It's very cold.
Oh, and I'm in Vegas, and it's finally getting to be like our regular winter weather, which is 60 during the day, so it's not so cold.
That's exciting. It's nice to have it be a little bit warm. I'm really
It,
excited that we have Christy Patti as a guest.
I was going to say there's only two of the three here, which is odd for us. Usually we are our awesome threesome, but today we're going to bring Christy Patti on as our guest because Christy is doing something for the first time ever in her performance slash production career, which is extensive, but there is a first for her, and she has written her first play, which she submitted to our annual New Play Festival. And we are going to be presenting it on Saturday, March 2nd at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So don't miss it. But we wanted to talk a little bit to Christy about her play, why she wrote her play, and just give her a little highlight here on our good talk, because it is a very important topic that she's decided to write about.
Absolutely. Let's bring her on.
Hi,
Hi,
Christy.
hi guys.
Hi, Christy.
Hello.
Okay,
feels
now we feel
normal.
complete.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
The title of the play is The Inexorable Trial for Jennifer Moore.
Okay, so Christy, what made you want to write this show?
So after the Dobbs decision in the Supreme Court came down, Dobbs was the one that overturned Roe v. Wade. I just, as a woman, as a mother with a child who is female, it just so personally spoke to me in my soul of how awful this decision was for womankind and anyone who wants to be a parent, really, or anyone of reproductive age, honestly.
Sure.
So, yeah, it was my response to that. I didn't know what else to do but write.
Right. Well, I mean, that's a wonderful thing. So I know you've talked to you're a mother of two, and can you talk to us a little bit about your experience in your pregnancy?
Sure. So I've had some really odd experiences as a mom in both in pregnancy and post-pregnancy. I'll start with the first one. My son is 9; he's gonna be 10 in July. And when I was pregnant with him, we had just gotten married. I lived in Florida. Neither of us had employer health insurance, and this was right before the Affordable Care Act came to be. So he was calling around to try to get private health insurance and made it very clear that we wanted to make sure that pregnancy was covered and childbirth was covered because we knew we wanted to start a family. And so the plan he got was the one that covered whatever it covered, which was basically nothing. So once I got pregnant, no gynecologist would see me. I couldn't get covered anywhere. I couldn't see a gynecologist in Florida. So I went to Planned Parenthood where they, verified that I was in fact pregnant, and then reached out to a friend of mine who was a nurse to be like, "Hey, what do I do here?" And so she was like, "Well, really, you can kind of just go to a primary care doctor and get your blood work done, and just make sure you're healthy." And all that. So I did. Um, we at that time, once I did get pregnant, we decided that Florida was probably too far away from our family, so we moved back up north to Maryland. By that point, the Affordable Care Act had just somehow amazingly timing wise kicked in. So by that point, there were no more pre-existing conditions. I could get health insurance. So that was great. But by the first time I was seen, it was like 4 or 5 months into my pregnancy already. And I remember them kind of like yelling at me and being like, "I don't even know if we can get you into a hospital at this point." It's like, well, I just got health insurance. I'm sorry. um, so there was that. And then I was so 40 week is considered term of pregnancy. I was 41 weeks with my son, and they sent me in to induce me.
Oh,
Induce me. There it was. And I was in a lot of pain. They weren't listening to me. They were kind of looking and being like, "Oh, you're not even having contractions. This isn't anything, right?" They lost my son's heartbeat twice. ultimately ended up being an emergency C-section, and we found out later that if it wasn't, if we ended up trying to do it natural, it would have killed both me and my son.
Wow.
Ended up in NICU. It was a whole mess. So in that, you take away that like women really aren't listened to, and there's just a whole lot of mess.
So you're
And
talking to them, you were telling them that you were having these pains and they were saying,
oh, it's nothing. You're not even having contractions yet. It's in your head. You just want drugs.
Mm.
So
I would want drugs, but
yeah. it was impossibly painful. So yeah, there was that. And then to make matters even worse, so I had a C-section. Long story short, my husband, who had gotten a job, had lost his job. And so I was the only one working. And because I had just started the job, because we had just moved, I didn't have any maternity leave. So 2.5 weeks after having a C-section, I went back to work after having a major surgery. So I did not get any maternal leave off, basically, for that one.
I mean, that seems like a long time to me, Christy. I mean, aren't women supposed to go back to work the day after they have a baby?
Apparently, yeah.
It's, what is this? I don't understand this non-respect of the fact that they go through this, but I guess it's men making rules. I mean,
yeah. It's also, it comes from like we just don't have the infrastructure in this country where we like support people in the way that other countries do with family leave. With, in Europe, they get like a year paid, or at least half a year. Like it's way, way more than we get.
Right.
So then after my first child, I got pregnant again, and that one ended up being a miscarriage. It happened very early on. So, I think in terms of other miscarriages, it wasn't terribly traumatic, but it was so traumatic for me. It was like my whole world, like you really look forward to this baby. Anyway, I did get pregnant again after that. And the pregnancy itself was just totally different in that I felt like I couldn't connect to this fetus because any day I was going to lose it. So, like with my son, I would sing to the fetus, I would read to it, I would talk to it. I had this great connection with my daughter. I like didn't want to know her until she was born, and then now she's just been like attached to me ever since. But it really like mentally does a number to you when you have a miscarriage.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And how much care is there even thought about for somebody who has a miscarriage?
Mentally, none. And that's why, looking back, it was like, I remember even going back for like the second appointment when they were like going to double check to see if we just maybe had the dates a little wrong and they could find a heartbeat or whatever. And before she even like looked at me, the doctor was like, "Oh, so we're just kind of verifying it's gone, right?"
Mm.
I was like,
Yeah, the bedside manner is lacking
what they
sometimes.
told me, but no mental health resources were, given to me, nothing. And
Like,
it wasn't until years later. I do have depression and anxiety, and I am seen for that now. But it took me years to really realize that, and there just wasn't any help offered. There wasn't any advice, any help offered, any advice given. Really.
Right, and that may have changed how your a subsequent pregnancy, how you handled that and felt about that, especially in the early stages. It seems like the way you felt about it was informed by what had just happened to you previously. So had that been addressed at the time, or if you had felt that you had the resources to address that at the time, could have been a different experience for you, and maybe
Absolutely.
a little bit less even traumatic. I'm sure that beginning of that subsequent pregnancy was in some ways traumatic.
Yes, very much so.
So what do you think people should know about having a miscarriage that they maybe don't know?
That you're definitely not alone. That I can't tell you how many. I think I've only had one or two of my female friends in my whole entire life who've had no miscarriages and no fertility problems.
Yeah, I can
the
agree.
vast-
I agree with that as well.
Yeah, the vast majority of women I know have had a miscarriage, to be quite honest. So talk about it. Don't let it be a thing you keep hidden to yourself. Get the help you need. Talk to your friends. Like, I know people who don't even want to admit they've had miscarriages, but I think it's good. It's if we talk about it and get it out in the open, and can have a dialogue about it, I think it really mentally will help folks who have
Do you think there's
experienced
a
one.
feeling of people feeling ashamed or
Absolutely.
disappointing
Absolutely.
people? Yeah.
Because you kind of feel almost less than as a woman. You're like, this is what I'm supposed to be able to do with my body. My body should be able to do this, and it somehow has failed.
Right. It's still framed as if something has gone wrong here
Yes.
rather than
It was a
something.
scientific fluke.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. My niece just found out that she's pregnant. You know, she did the 2 tests and whatever, but she's not telling anybody except a very small group of us until she goes to her doctor and she's really sure. And then she,
Absolutely.
I don't know, I might even still wait a little while longer because, you know, I don't want to like have to retell people. I said, you know, honey, all of those things are things that really shouldn't matter. You know, the disappointment that you think other people might have. It's like this is about you and your life, you know. And this just happened the other day, and it kind of made me think. I don't have any idea what that is.
Hmm.
You know, as a man, zero. I mean, you know, we adopted. I gained weight, so you know, I know that part. I did, it was,
That's universal.
Yeah. Yeah.
but you know, I mean, jokes aside, it isn't something that a man can understand at all.
Right.
Even me, I mean, I want to understand, but I can't, you know, because you can't, you know, I know it's like this whole otherworldly feeling that we're men should just shut the hell up about it. Okay.
Amen.
You know, and you know, the thing is that I know that there are many issues with this, and a lot of, you know, you know, Christy, you and I have talked about this abortion that was in, I think it was in Texas, where
Oh,
the
yeah.
woman,
Her name is Kate Cox, and she this was really people are going to see my show and think I wrote it, that Jennifer Moore is Kate Cox, but I actually wrote it before the Kate Cox story happened, but it's so similar of what happened to her as what happens to my character in the piece. She was pregnant. She's already had 2 other kids. She there was something wrong at her 4-month, 5-month doctor appointment, and currently in the state of Texas, she cannot get an abortion. But this is a fetus that will not be able to survive much past birth, honestly. And just thinking about being in that place and having to carry this fetus that is not going to survive, and being made to know that every day, in, you know, it just to me is like mental torture. It's
Right.
what purpose are you serving to make this woman carry this?
Right.
But also, if she doesn't have an abortion, she risks future fertility, and she risks her own life as well,
Right.
because pregnancy in general in this country, I looked up some figures, not to bore everybody, but just maternal health and pregnancy in general in this country is a risky proposition. Every year since 2018, the number for maternal mortality rate in the US has increased. The last year that was studied, the maternal death rate in the US was more than 10 times higher than countries on the same economic level, including Austria, Israel, Japan, Spain, Australia. And the wildest figure I've heard in a really long time, I've been listening to this podcast called Hysteria, which is great, and you should check it out. But you are statistically more likely in the United States to die from being pregnant than if you're a police officer in the line of duty.
Wow.
Yeah. And obviously, and this is me saying this as a privileged white woman. I totally understand. I grew up with both parents. My husband grew up with both parents. We have an incredible family network. And this is me with the system failing me. So you know, if it's failing me, it's failing everyone. You know, Black
Absolutely.
women especially are really underserved in this area, in this country.
Mhm. I know that there's been a lot this year about this. I want to say it's a care in Japan. I forget what it's called, but a care in Japan after birth. So after a woman has a child, they're specifically given this care of foods that help renourish the body. And I don't know if I have no idea whether it's a country legislated, but there's a whole process of bringing the body once again to a place after this extremely exhaustive and difficult period to bring it back. And I think I want to say it's like a 3 month period there before women kind of, re-enter the workforce and do whatever.
Absolutely. They actually call it the fourth trimester usually because it's like the last 3 months of the baby developing happen kind of outside of the womb because they're really still not like holding their head up and stuff. They're kind of still squishy and developing in those
Yeah.
first 3 months outside. So it's really, it kind of is part of the pregnancy. And in this country, we just don't really provide any resources for it. You have one checkup 6 weeks after you give birth, and they're like, all right, you suffering from any postpartum depression? No? All right, on your way, you're fine.
And they probably didn't even ask that question until recently.
No,
Well,
That's
they
quite
did
frankly.
ask that with me, but it's like if you're not going to ask any follow up, depression is such a taboo topic anyway that like a lot of women aren't going to.
no, I'm
I
not.
didn't admit it because I didn't
Right.
know.
Right. Right.
Like my dad, who just had his pacemaker put in, got through medical insurance, he got care that for 3 weeks at least that will come right to the house to check out how he is. That he can have rehabilitation. Not rehabilitation. Anyway, and then today we got a phone call that he can have 4 weeks of meals sent here.
Mm.
So, why? Because I hear you talking about the fourth trimester and the baby, but what about the fourth trimester for your body?
Absolutely, it's
Well, that's
needs
it.
to heal for sure.
Right. And some women are adjusting to being a food source for that child, and not all, but some are. And, all of that happens in that time frame. It does feel very wise to include that as part of the pregnancy, leading and leading up to the pregnancy, the health, as you're trying to conceive, what does that look like? If you are actively trying to conceive, what does that look like in terms of self-care? And then postpartum, what does that look like in terms of self-care? And we just don't really getting any of that.
Yeah.
Not through the system, certainly.
What's the future here? What are the gains being made?
I don't know. Vote, vote. Know who's running. Know the issues. Know where they stand. Some groups that I've been following and have looked into, if you can support them, Planned Parenthood, amazing. They do amazing work everywhere they are. There's a group called Reproductive Freedom for All. It used to be called NARAL, NARAL, and they're one that I follow a lot. They're the ones working actively to overturn these abortion bans and in the states where they're now banned. And then another group that I like that I've been on the mailing list for is a group called Chamber of Mothers, and they're looking at more of the legislative issues of like maternal health care and paid family leave and the things that would actually help someone once they become a mother to actually be a mother.
The focus definitely goes on the baby when the baby is born, which is great. But you can't forget that focus of the mother who has been through everything. And I think that's really, that's a issue that absolutely has to be solved.
Yep. And it's vital to the health of both, that the health of both is addressed. That's it.
Yeah.
The mother can only serve the baby if she's being served.
I just think that birth is a much larger issue than the way sometimes it's represented in the world.
Yeah.
This person was born, sometimes it takes years to get to that, and a lot of money and a lot of hope, and these are big moments.
Yeah.
And there's lots of space for a lot of things to go wrong as well. And when that does happen, women need to be able to go to their doctors and do what's best for them and not have to get a bunch of lawyers involved
Right.
when
And
their life is literally on the line at certain
right.
points.
To have
Right.
people who are really going to listen to them. I'm voting this year.
Thank you. I am as well.
I am as well.
Vote for people who care about health care,
Yes.
women, for everyone, for babies.
And come see my show on Saturday, March 2nd at 7 p.m. Eastern at the New Play Festival.
Premiere production, premiere writing. Wow.
Thank you. We're excited.
Thank you so much, Christy.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for talking to us.
Bye, Gret.
Bye.
Bye.